According to Hitler, Jews are subhuman and most of them must be destroyed. Aryans are the most superior and the master of all races. But what about other races? Hitler and Nazis classified nations in tier list. In this video, we are going to reveal the locations and characteristics of some nations according to Hitler. We have 5 different layers in our list. We'll start from the bottom and move upwards. At the very bottom, there are the Jews. According to Nazis, Jews were the greatest threat to the Aryan race. The conspiracy theories that the Nazis advanced about Jews were: Jews manipulate countries through finance, driving them into economic crisis. Jews are the hidden power behind both communism and capitalism. Jews attempt to undermine the racial purity of Aryans through marriage. Jews are the hidden force that controls the world. For these reasons, the Nazis wanted to eliminate all Jews from Europe. Nevertheless, some Jews were considered honorary Aryans by the Nazi government due to their outstanding services. Meanwhile, some nations were directly declared honorary Aryans. We will get to them shortly. In the layer above, there are nations that the Nazis considered subhuman, but not as subhuman as Jews. These nations contribute nothing to civilization, but only seek to destroy what the Aryans have created. According to the Nazis, 70% of these nations should be eliminated, and the remaining should live as slaves to Aryans. The Nazis categorize blacks into this layer. For the Nazis, blacks were culturally and intellectually inferior and could not contribute to German civilization. Other peoples or races in this layer are the Slavs. In Hitler's book, it was planned for Germany to invade Eastern Europe, cleanse it of Slavs and Germanize it. Additionally, Slavs should be isolated from Germans because they could compromise the Aryan purity. In the next layer, there are honorary Aryans. The peoples in this layer are assessed not genetically, but politically. Nations who had good relations with Nazi Germany were given honorary Aryan status. Of course, not only nations but also individuals considered inferior by the Nazis could receive this title. Japs, Italians, Bulgarians and Hungarians are in this layer. They are in this layer because they were allies of Germany during World War II. Also, some Arab leaders were granted this status. For example, Palestinian leader Haji Emin al-Husseini was given this status due to his cooperation with the Nazis and his stance against the Jews. Contrary to what some Indians claim, the Nazis did not consider Indians as Aryans. Yes, they were linguistically similar to Germans. Furthermore, according to the Nazis, Aryans once lived there as well, but over time they mixed excessively and lost their purity. Still, the Nazis evaluated Indians as honorary Aryans to support their rebellion against the British. Also, the Nazis did not consider Finns as Aryans. But after the Finns stopped the Soviets in the Winter War of 1942, they were granted honorary Aryan status. In the layer above, there are the Europeans considered by the Nazis. These nations could not create anything from scratch, but could develop what the Aryans had created. Unlike other nations, these nations were developed enough to communicate. They could manage themselves, but still needed Aryan protection. Some of these nations are Greeks, Italians, Spaniards, Portuguese, Turks and French. At the very top of the tier list, there are the Aryans. According to the Nazis, Aryans are the purest and strongest form of humanity. Science, art, technology, culture could only be created by Aryans. The nations classified as Aryans by the Nazis were Germans, Swedes, Danes, and Norwegians. These nations were considered to have the purest Aryan blood. This was around 80%. Additionally, people living in the northern part of France were seen as Aryan, but in general, the French were not considered sufficiently Aryan. On the other hand, although the British were accepted as Aryans by Hitler, due to the extensive mixing during the British Empire period, they were not considered as Aryan as the others. Dutch and Icelanders were also considered Aryan by the Nazis. In fact, Icelanders were shown as an example of how Aryans could preserve their race in an isolated island. And that's all for this video. If you are curious about Mr. Beast's hidden political views, you can click on the card. See you in the next video.